Is there ever when you, because unfortunately, the dark side of being a comic or entertainment is that sometimes when the lights go out and the crowds, stop cheering, doesn't end well for a lot of the people in the business that we share. Was it a strong family? Was it your upbringing? What during those dark periods? Because the one thing about a comedian is there is a tormented side to it. There is a kind of it kind of makes not all comedians, but some. And we think about some of the greats, someone like Robin Williams, rest his soul, and like certain guys that you were just saying, Kinnison, you see certain guys that you think had it all, and you just, and in rock music and wrestling, the list is even longer. But there just seems like that. But I never picked up a paper and was like, oh shit, Jeff Foxworthy out of a strip club, shot at somebody, how were you able to, because there's so much attention and there's so many people that want a piece of you. And it's so easy to get caught up in that fake attention and that fake love. Cause that's what it is. When you're hot, everybody wants to be your friend, and then when it's over, they don't know you anymore.
Yeah, you're right. Well, the first thing you have to realize, your ego is not your friend. Your ego is your enemy. But I came from a dad that was married 6 times and had 1,000 affairs in between, and sometimes you learn what to do by observing what to do, and sometimes you learn by observing the opposite.
What not to do.
And so anytime he decided to pull the cord and walk out, I saw the damage. And I don't care what people say to kids. When a parent leaves, what the kid feels is, I wasn't worth sticking around for.
Right.
So I just kind of decided early in my life, if I ever had kids, they weren't going to feel that way. And even if it was like during those busy days, like during the Blue Collar Comedy Tour, I would rent a plane. I would fly home every night. If I did a show in St. Louis, I'd walk off stage, get on the plane, get back to Atlanta at 1:32 in the morning, got up at 6, I took my kids to school, picked them up from school, went back, got on a plane and flew to Minneapolis. And I look back and I laugh and go, when did I sleep? But if you talk to my kids who are in their 30s now, they're like, we don't really remember you being gone much. Yeah. And, it sounds corny, but you do.
It's not corny.
You reap what you sow. And I was doing an interview years ago, and the lady said, okay, you do stand up, you write books, you paint, you do game shows. Which one are you? And I said, all those things are things that I do, and I love what I do. I wouldn't want to do anything else. But who I am is, I'm a husband and a dad and a brother and a son and a person of the community that I live in. And I said, so what I do may change many times. Hopefully who I am stays consistent through that. So, I think when our business, when it becomes dangerous, is when your identity becomes what you do.
Yep. I know that. That's close to home right there.
When that goes away, what are you left with,
Yep. Luckily, that's a lesson that I had to learn the hard way. Because you equate those cheers and those people around you, but they're not dealing with real life situations with you. They're not dealing with bills. They're not dealing with the distance and being gone and the responsibilities of not being home. And, when everybody wants you at the bar till 2, 3 in the morning and all these things because you're this hilarious or this big monster or the next great, you're all these things that you could possibly be. But the people who really know you, they're the ones who suffer. And like I said, I had to make a choice, because like losing your family, there's no crowd that can replace that. And it's a lesson that so many guys learn too late. And I think that has a lot to do with the unhappiness. You know, those
100%.
lonely nights
And
in the
I learned,
hotel when you ain't got your kids don't want to talk to you, and your wife is just send the check. You know, and
yeah.
and that is a miserable existence, and there is no fan, and there is no person that can fix that hole. You know, and that's why I think they try to numb up and look for medicines, and that's where bad things happen.
Well, I watched my dad get off work and go to the bar, and I saw what happened. So, like when we were doing blue collar, you get back to the hotel, and the other guy's like, "Hey, man, let's go grab a beer." Well, I don't think there's anything in the world wrong with grabbing a beer,
Yeah.
but I know if I get in there and have a beer and start cutting up with them and laughing around, I'm probably going to have another one and another one.
Yep.
And then if somebody in a low cut dress sits next to me and they smell good, I have put myself in a situation where I could break the trust of my kids and my wife.
Right.
And I saw my dad do that again and again and again. And I'm like, yeah, it looks good. It ain't good. And so I would say to them, I'm going up to my room and ordering room service and calling home, you know.
Yep.
But I learned by a bad example. I'm like, okay, don't do that. Some, the lucky ones learn by a good example.
Yeah, because like I said, my biological father, he had a problem with drugs, and he had a problem with his hands on women, and I learned at a very young age that's not how you deal with women, and I would see my mother's sadness, but worst of all, I saw her in constant fear of him. Don't say the wrong thing. Don't do the wrong thing. You don't know what's going to set him off. When I was like, I will, and I was blessed with this monstrous stature, and I was like, but I will never want somebody I love afraid of me. And, even my kids, when I get cross with my kids, they still are like, oh, Dad. Now a stranger on the street, I puff up, they'll be like, oh, shit. But like,
right.
With my kids, it's, they do something great. I'm the first one with a tear coming down my face, and just today, actually, my son had his first day of football in the 9th grade, and he had his first. He was supposed to just be on the freshman team, but apparently, when you're 6'4.5" and you have the legacy when he does at 14, they were like, "Hey, why don't you try out for junior varsity and varsity?" And I was like, "Son, are you sure?" And he's like, "I got this, Dad." And then
Wow.
he went in at 7:00 today, and he called me at 10:45, and I'm FaceTime, and I'm, "How'd it go, son?" And he was like, "I had a blast, Dad. It's great. I love the team and the coach, and they said I get to come back tomorrow, and I get to do pads on this day." And I was just like, and he's like, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, I'm just so happy for you that you're having fun." Now, remember, son, it's just about having fun. There's no pressure. I don't need you to play ball for me. He's like, "Dad, I know." I said, "Besides, you already beat me anyway. One of your electives is engineering." And my electives were not those things. It was like country dancing, basket weaving, cooking. Like I did it, there was the extra class was engineering. So, it's the same thing. Like my daughter jumps horses, and every time she has a good jump, I get emotional, and it's one of those things but I saw what it was like walking around like a tough guy all the time. And I was like, what a miserable existence. So I get exactly where you're coming from.
And as a child, you weren't able to say, hey, this is what I need, or this is what I want, because you were too busy being the dancing monkey to keep daddy happy, right?
Yeah, I would make jokes all the damn time or do silly stuff to keep the heat off mom.
100%. And that was me. But like what you just said, like you talk about our business and the attention and the spotlight and the fame, the fact that your kids trust you like that, there's nothing the world can give you that is of more value than your kids loving you and trusting you like that. And here's the thing about trust that I learned, I love my dad. I didn't trust my dad because I saw him blow things up too many times. And trust is kind of like a cup of coffee. You earn it a drop at a time. But when you lose it, it's like somebody turns that cup up. It all goes away at one time.
That's a great way of looking at it.
And I'm like, I don't want my kids to ever go, you know what? I don't trust my dad. I wanted it to be, if dad says he's going to do this, he's going to do this,
And it's hard sometimes because like with I've got, like I said, I have, 2011 was a hell of a year. I had just got divorced, and previous to my marriage, we tried to have kids, and we ended up going to a fertility clinic, which is one of the bits I do. And she was fine. And when it was my turn, I just found it just to be completely ridiculous, the things they were asking of me in public, in front of people, around people, within earshot. And there was a lot of things I could do, but that was not one of them. And so I just said, you know what? Obviously, it's me. You said she's fine. So I don't believe I need to go in that room that my elbows touch both sides of the wall. I don't want to do that. I'm too big for that. So I didn't do it. And so we didn't have kids. And, that was like one of the factors. And she wanted me to stay home. And I had I had this really comfortable job as Snoop's bodyguard in LA. And he only traveled for tours. So I was home a lot. And, the WWE called, and I wanted to be me. I wanted to be my own guy. I didn't want to be a bodyguard, even though I was good at it. But it's just not what I wanted to do. And we ended up getting divorced. So that first year out, I was like, I'm barren, I'm single, and I'm the most popular wrestler right now. And I ended up the first 3 women I dated, I got pregnant. So I have 3 14-year-olds. Well, actually, I have a 15-year-old and 2 14. We're in the middle of transitioning right now. And I had to change my whole way of thinking. And then I met my wife, Ingrid, and we had Georgie. We did that the right way. And but I wouldn't trade my children for anything. I wish in a perfect world that we would all been in the same place. When we travel together, people ask, are they triplets? And I'm like, none of their hairs match. Like, they're not triplets. Like, they're all different ethnicities. I spread it. I made sure it's covered. Genetic diversity. So when someone ever says something to me,
the diversity calendar.
Yeah, I got Asian, Hispanic, Black, white. I got it all locked in there. I got a little house of international pancakes.
You need to go back and whip somebody in that fertility clinic. Because
if I ever see that doctor, me and him gonna have some furniture is gonna be moved. But now that my daughters are older, especially the 14-year-olds, and when they start talking to me about boyfriends and outfits they're gonna wear for the first day of school, that is hard. But I can't say what the overprotective dad wants to say on FaceTime. I'll be like, hey, you're not wearing that. I have to be like, well, that's a lovely shade of brown. And like, tell me more, and telling about the first time the guy she had a crush on gave her his hoodie. And I was like, why didn't your mother send you with a sweater? Doesn't she know what could happen? But you can't do those things. But I listen to their eyes light up because they can tell me about it, and then I'll say, well, hey, is he respectful? Does he ask you about your day? Things like that, and he asked to hold my hand. And I said, he asked, well, that's very cool. There's the other side of me is like, I need his address, because I think about, how I was in high school, but I was lucky because I was unattractive and goofy. So whatever nefarious ideas I had, the girls weren't having it, and I was terrified of them. But being able to have,
don't you think every guy needs to have a daughter?
Yeah,
because it so impacts the way you think about women once you have a daughter. Not
to mention also the fact that like your son, you want to replace you. You want him to become the alpha, and that you want to see him pass you. Your daughter is always your baby.
Yes.
And in this day and age, it's a different love. Both have the same weight, but it is a different love. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like what you just saw, don't stop there. You can catch the full conversations right here, only on Planet Tyrus. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss what's next. And you don't want to miss what's next. I'm telling you, bad things will happen. Oh, I'm just playing. Nothing bad's going to happen, but I won't be your friend.